Hello there, my very good friends. On today's wrestling news, we're going to talk about WWE Raw viewership plummeting like a stone.
We'll tell you what's going on with Roxanne Perez on the main roster.
A major update on Tetsuya Naito.
And Roman Reigns' retirement path. I'm Adam Wilborn.
And I'm Andy Murray.
Live in Las Vegas. This is the news.
Yes, we are in front of the 10th wonder of the world itself here in ancient Egypt once again. But we're going to kick this one off by talking about a little snippet from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Uncle Dave, he's at it again. That has gotten a bunch of people talking, shall we say. It was part of like a wider discussion on rights fees and platforms and like how the UFC's thing is almost up and hey, maybe Netflix might be an attractive proposition for them. Well, maybe not if this number is anything to go by. Dave has he does these posts on the Observer every week where he's got like these calculations, like estimates of what the viewership for Raw is, right? In the USA, because we don't get that anymore. It's on Netflix. Nielsen's not a thing for that. The thing about the Netflix number is that it's worldwide and it's over 7 days, right? Whereas a Nielsen rating is live in the same day. This is over 7 days. It's a much wider group of people. So it should be bigger, and it is bigger. It's about 3 million a week, right? Global viewers over 7 days. Thing is, they don't report on the USA numbers because whatever. However, Big Dave reporting here, the Raw's down 35% since jumping over to Netflix. So it's an interesting one to kind of pick apart. I think ultimately, right, you don't have to care, right? You don't have to give a damn. If you're not interested, I'm interested in this stuff personally, but a lot, how many people watch the show doesn't need to determine how much you like it. However, it does show that perhaps the big swell that people were expecting when it moved over to Netflix simply hasn't happened. If it's down 35% in the US, yeah, 3 million globally is a really good number, but you can't really compare that to the older numbers because it's a completely different thing. Yes, hello. I too, I'm a bit surprised by this, to be honest. I thought when it went over to Netflix as well, because almost everybody on the planet has it, that in the US as well, it would go up and up and up and up. Not the case, it seems.
Yeah, surprising that, especially because this is, traditionally the time when viewership does pick up, the road to WrestleMania, the excitement around that, and then there's typically a drop-off following WrestleMania. Look, you compare it to the original number they did on there, it's going to be unfair, obviously, because they always start with a big spike, but still, 35% is a big drop for them. And it's going to be very interesting to see how WWE, how Netflix reacts to this, whether or not they change the way they do things or what, because like
WrestleMania's cancelled, is the...
Yes, that's it. They're just spinning it off this year. No, it's one of those things, I think, like you say, it's really not going to affect anything going forward too much straight away. It might be a case that they maybe judge it after a year or 2 years or whatever it may be. Obviously, they've got a long-term deal with Netflix with this across the globe, as you mentioned. But I'm fascinated to see how WWE reacts to this, to see if they do try and change some things up or, what happens with regards to the draft and things going forward, because this is a major drop-off for them.
Yeah, it's not like it's, a couple of hundred, like 100,000 people, right? Yeah. Well, actually, that is quite big as well. I'm speaking rubbish here. And I'll correct myself from earlier. You can get the US charts if you go on, through the To-Doom site. But then it's dependent on Raw finishing in the top 10, and again, it's over 7 days. As far as like changing stuff goes, I believe the Netflix deal is a 10-year deal with a 5-year out if Netflix don't want to. But the thing is, yes, it's declined versus being on cable or whatever, but it's also like the 10th, 9th, 7th most watched show on the platform worldwide every week. It gets beat by things like Squid Game, but everyone watches that. Everyone watches that. I think what this kind of does reinforce to me a little bit is that this is still a niche entertainment product. As much as they have people like Travis Scott involved and all these celebrities at ringside and all this stuff, it's not of the same level of your NFLs if you're over here, or the Premier League if you're back home or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I think they're still going to be making money hand over fist with everything, with all the money they make from Netflix and the money they make from their sponsors. Speaking of which, we wouldn't be here without our wonderful sponsor. Let's hear from them now.
Viva Las Vegas! That's right, we're here for WrestleMania, courtesy of Surfshark, who are sponsoring all the content we produce from Mania, and their VPN is well worth checking out. It makes sure all of your stuff stays private and secure when you're out and about online. Plus, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. Not only that, but it allows you to change your virtual location to access all of your favorite content, which means you can watch all of WWE shows on Netflix, not just Raw, but SmackDown and NXT too, with no ads. And you get to see all the bonus content us Brits get to see too. Stuff like this. If you're the man! Just click the link in the description and use code WhatCultureMania at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN.
Moving on, now we will talk about Roxanne Perez. What is the deal with her? I think many of us anticipated she would be on the WrestleMania card. In the end, she's just barely sneaked onto the NXT Stand and Deliver card. But good news if you're a fan of hers. On a WrestleBinge Q&A, WrestleVotes reporting on Roxanne Perez said she will be on the main roster post-WrestleMania, and she's going to get a good spot and a good push to start, which is fantastic news. They also added she's got a hell of a career lined up for her, which is understandable. Like, Roxanne Perez is one of those names we've talked about for, to be honest, years as being ready to make the move from NXT to the main roster. She's done everything. They've done everything with her in terms of giving her long title reigns, trying her as a face, as a heel. I think personally she works better as a baby face. She had a little bit of a stint on SmackDown last week, of course. She faced Tiffany Stratton there, but she's a phenomenal worker, and it's understandable that WWE, in the sort of post-WrestleMania time frame, would want to bring her up and make use of her. Hence why she's probably not being too heavily featured on the Stand and Deliver card. They want to use that for more NXT talent. They're going to still be there by the end of April, basically. But yeah, I'm really excited and happy to hear that not only she's going to get a good spot on the roster, but a big push as well, because she merits it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people were a bit disappointed, in particular when the Bayley stuff didn't have much follow through.
Yeah.
And now she's on the NXT card. She's teaming with Cora Jade, right?
Yeah.
Which is like, they kind of did a soft split with them, and now they're coming back together. So like, her creative since the Royal Rumble has been kind of all over the place. It makes me think that maybe something changed that we don't know about, and maybe this is just me being a bit too charitable, or maybe they're just negligent and crap. I don't know. Either way, look, we sing Roxanne Perez's name on this channel every time we talk about her. We think she's brilliant. I agree. I think she's a bit better as a babyface. I think she's got the attitude down as a heel, but like the ring work and stuff like that, it's a little bit more natural, I think, in that regard. Either way, like, she fits the nickname. She is a prodigy. It's really silly that she's not been in some bigger profiles. She was second in the Royal Rumble, for goodness sake. Come on, what are we doing here? Get it together, Paul.
I think the way that she was presented, like you say, in the Rumble, gave a sign to me that I thought she was going to have a big spot on the WrestleMania card. I thought she was going to wrestle Bayley. Yeah. Like you say, these plans have clearly changed with Bayley now teaming with Lyra Valkyria in that tag match. And if you want to know predictions for that, by the way, they are all over the channel as well for both night 1 and night 2 of WrestleMania. But yeah, understandable they want to do some big things with her going forward, and I've no doubt she's going to hit the ground running when she does eventually finally make the move to the main roster. Speaking of making moves, we're making moves all over Las Vegas this weekend, because tonight it's finally time for our live show. Where we are going to be at the HyperX Esports Arena. You can see it over there.
It's that whole building.
We are going to. That's the size of the screen we are going to have to do our fantastic SmackDown watch along. We're going to have a live ups and downs with Simon Miller afterwards. Myself and Hamflet are going to do a live podcast previewing WrestleMania. So do join us for that. WhatCulture.com/tickets. Limited tickets now available. Do join us for that tonight. After that, we're heading over to the wonderful Luxor. That's right, we're going to be in Aurora for post-WrestleMania revelry, let's say, and ups and downs in the Aurora bar, as I said, in the Luxor, because at the end of the day, anything's possible in the Pyramid. Do join us for that one. And then Monday night, we are going to be at Flanker over here at Mandalay Bay, watching Raw with you guys, and then doing an ups and downs there afterwards as well. So do join us for all of those shows. We cannot wait. WhatCulture.com/tickets for tonight's show at the HyperX. I can't wait.
Couldn't be any closer and more convenient if you're going to WrestleMania. Yeah. The stadium's like 10 minutes that way, and you can't get anywhere here in 10 minutes. So think of that. Make the most of that. Should we talk about Tetsuya Naito?
Yeah, what's going on there?
Why not? Yeah, what on earth's going on there? So he's done with we haven't talked about him on the channel yet, because using New Japan images is very difficult. We don't have to do that on this one here. But yeah, he's left New Japan, which is crazy because he is the biggest star in the company in terms of being like a needle-moving, ticket-drawing guy. it was announced earlier this week, Tokyo Sports, all this stuff, New Japan, they had an official press release. Well, Fightful have a bit of an update on Naito because it's really hard to figure out where he fits in the modern wrestling landscape.
Where he goes now.
Exactly. But they've got some interesting stuff here. Interestingly, they say it would be a surprise if he ends up in AEW.
Yeah.
That's mentioned specifically. Now, there's no mention of WWE in this report or anything like that. Also, we've got another kind of report on this from Brian Alvarez on Wrestling Observer. It was on his Twitter, his subscription Twitter, not one of his radio shows. I was trying to get live or radio or whatever it is. The impression that he's gotten is that apparently Naito just wanted more money than they were willing to pay to renew. He'd been working as a free agent for a while. This happens a lot in Japan. Japanese wrestlers work on just kind of like handshake agreements.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that does lead to situations where one of your biggest stars is just gone all of a sudden. But the press release was like it's mutual, all this stuff. It's hard to figure out where he fits in. I mean, like, with all due respect to the guy, and I've loved him for many, many, many years, he's not the wrestler he once was.
No.
Injuries have definitely taken a toll. I think his knees are made of paper mache at this point. You could probably smash them with a balloon hammer. The poor guy, he's just, he's not what he used to be. That makes me a bit dubious about showing up in a WWE or an AEW, but you never know. He's a big name.
Yeah, I was going to say, long term, I don't know what he does going forward, because like you say, you can't see him signing a 5-year deal with either AEW or WWE. Maybe it's the case that he just takes a bit of a break and then they go back to the renegotiating table with New Japan after a while and try and settle something in time for Wrestle Kingdom next year, for example. But it is interesting because, like you say, he's one of the very few people who, when you heard his name come up as a free agent, there wasn't a real obvious path for where he goes next. If it was a Gabe Kidd, for example, it's fairly obvious that you would assume he'd probably make the jump to AEW as an alternative. Naito, 10 years ago, anything would have been possible, although AEW wouldn't have existed 10 years ago. But still, the point still stands. But it'll be very intriguing to see what he does next, if anything, because like you say, he is someone who's really been through the mill in recent years. So maybe it's just a case of he can't settle on a figure and he's thought, I'll just take a year out and recover, because occasionally that does help.
Yeah, and he's had like lots of eye issues and stuff as well. Like, he's got a litany of problems. Like, wrestling just grinds people down, and it has ground him down to a degree as well. I think the likeliest path that I see for him is maybe going to like a Pro Wrestling Noah or in All Japan and being the big dog, basically. I mean, he was the big dog in New Japan as well. He's a huge name. He's a huge star in Japan, Tetsuya Naito. If you're not a New Japan fan, you might not be like aware of the level that this guy is at. So yeah, maybe he just goes to Noah and decides to be the king of Noah. Although Kenta's doing some good stuff over there at the moment as well.
It was Omos for a while.
It was, man. Man, we just spent all that time thinking about where the hell Omos is. I miss that guy. I really do miss that guy. But
I hope we see him post WrestleMania somewhere doing something.
You never know when he could show up.
You do.
I mean, he could show up at WrestleMania. That'd be good. Battle Royal.
Could show up on SmackDown tonight.
Oh my gosh, that would be good.
An outside bet for the Andre, maybe, something like that. But let's talk retirement plans, not for Tetsuya Naito, instead for Roman Reigns. You may have seen, and it really was a bad start to my day when I saw the photos of Roman Reigns from Vanity Fair, because, come on, mate, give the rest of us a chance. He's done a big thing in Vanity Fair, basically, feature story, all about him, what he's up to, what he wants to do going forward. And with regards to his career within WWE, there's very much a clock on that one. His currently deal with the company is set to expire after WrestleMania 42 next year, of course, 2026. He does plan to stick with WWE after that, so don't panic too much, but only for another year or two max, saying after I finish the contract that I'm in, we've probably got another year or two max, then it's time to take on a less physical form of entertainment. He talks more in the Vanity Fair article, which is well worth checking out, by the way, about branching out into Hollywood. Obviously, he was in Hobbs & Shaw and was brilliant in that. He apparently has offered a great deal of roles, but he's very picky on what he wants to do, and also he's very limited right now with his WWE responsibilities, of course. But going forward, he says he wants to basically take a sort of Tarantino style with all this, very much pick and choose, saying, I almost want to model it after Tarantino, where we're not just doing anything and everything. I want to really plot it out. I want this one, I want that one, which is understandable. He's made a lot of money in professional wrestling, quite rightly. He's produced a great deal of cinema within WWE, and he wouldn't want to ruin that by just doing any old film going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested to see what Hollywood opportunities come. I mean, Hobbs and Shaw is fun, but he didn't say a word, did he? He did a couple of Samoan drops. It was a good time.
Yeah.
I'm really interested
Did
to
he
see.
get a spear in that as well?
I think he did. Yeah, him and The Rock did a bunch of wrestling moves in that
So
big
good.
fight at the end.
Like that, Plane, they're all the
Top 2 movies ever. It's the Mount Rushmore of films. You just cut the other 2 off. They can't compete. Yeah, where are we going with this? Yeah, like he's always struck me in the past couple of years as a guy who, that's cool, didn't have much longer left as at least a full-time wrestler.
Yeah.
He hasn't really been a full-time wrestler for 4 years, basically at this stage. So yeah, fair play to him. He's clearly a guy with ambitions beyond wrestling. Can't hate on that. Hope his career turns out, acting-wise, Batista more than... Who's a Hulk Hogan actor-wise? Mr. Nanny, man, come on. What are we doing? Thunder in Paradise? You seen that before? Thunder in Paradise.
To be honest.
Yeah, he's like in a thong on a boat. It's weird. It's weird. Don't watch that.
They wrote across a weekend with some chemical help.
It might be. I mean, it's a TV show. It's a TV show, so they must have done a lot of writing.
Or is
That's
that
ridiculous.
Someone chucks a dog in a lake? One of the two, isn't it?
Is it the one where he's on a wrecking ball? Who knows? If you've seen that, it's forever scorched into your corneas.
Yeah.
But hey, that'll do for this one. Thank you for joining us. It's WrestleMania week, baby.
Will Roman Reigns win night 1 of WrestleMania in our predictions?
Let us know in the comment section below if you'll win the matches. Also, predictions. Yes.